just a little bit more on why this isn't going to go away, and why it is huge. It's a process, it's got an ugly word for it, disintermediation. It's a very powerful thing. It's been happening since the web opened for business in different ways, and it's about taking out the middleman. So we've seen in e-commerce hitting retail. You know, the high streets and retail have been eaten into, taken out as the middleman. Not completely, but to a significant extent, disintermediated. We've seen it, and we're seeing it happen with journalism. So increasingly, you know, journalism's having to change and move around the fact that social media is usually there first. Citizen journalism and the rest. We've seen it, and I'm seeing it increasingly with music and record labels having to change their model. And the big one right now is with publishing. 50 Shades of Grey and all that. You know, if you look at the figures, I haven't memorised them all, but basically I think 50 Shades of Grey has overtaken J.K. Rowling in a tiny amount of the time. There's more books being sold electronically because of this intermediation. And in finance, that's exactly what crowdfunding is. It's taking out the middle. And what this means, taking the middle out, is that, you know, in publishing, in all those different areas, at the moment and historically, someone else decides what we get. Someone else decides what albums get made. Someone else decides what products get made. Someone else decides which entrepreneurs get funded for which projects. And usually, that's on the basis of the minimum the risk, the maximum profit in the shortest time, regardless of other merits. And we'll see how this applies in Derek's case in a moment.
Did you say taking out the middleman, you're still talking about minimum risk?
Sorry?
Are you still saying there has to be minimum risk in your definition?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. Can I come back to that later on?
Okay.
Okay. Fundamentally, what crowdfunding means is that people can decide. We'll see how that plays out when we talk about life rescue. And here's a slide that starts to talk about the reduction of risk here, and it comes from the fact that what crowdfunding as an entity does is it has the potential to conflate a number of steps and reduce and sometimes even remove a risk. So the research step, the gatekeeper, the middleman can come out very often. Because of pre-sales, you know you've got a market for a product. That's a big reduction of risk. And you're getting funded, and crucially, you're getting funded principally on your terms. On terms that they've got to be good terms because no one's going to come to your crowdfund otherwise, but you set those terms, not the investor. This is broad brush stuff, but it has the potential to remove a lot of risk and to shift the balance of control. So this is why I'm saying that crowdfunding is a part of a massive movement, a global movement, that's resulting from all these things, and is immensely important.
Do you mean removes the risk or spreads the risk?
It removes some of the risk. It removes some of the risk. So, for example, here's a great example of having removed a risk. Okay, this is a Californian company who wanted, I think it was $100,000 to create a new product called Pebble. Untried market, new sort of product. Various things have been tried in this market before and failed, would be seen as pretty risky. They crowdfunded that. I don't know if you can see the figure there, but they raised 10,000% of what they asked for. This is a real example. You're going to see it on Kickstarter. So the risk of starting that business was very low at that point. They raised $10 million together.
But that business didn't get away because they couldn't do it for $10 million.
Sorry?
That
It's not they haven't failed. They just weren't able to deliver their watch when they thought if they were doing 100 grand. That's PR saying that they failed. They haven't failed. They're still working on it.
So the point is that you know at the point when you embark there's a market for this at a removal of risk, in my view. So, you know, part of the picture I'm going to hand over in a moment to, but part of the picture I want to paint for you is this has been extremely successful in the States. There are hundreds, no thousands of projects and businesses that have been funded for this. Government have responded extremely positively to this, to the extent of changing regulations to accommodate some of this. We need some of that. Here's another example. This is actually a Manchester company crowdfunding on Kickstarter. Kickstarter being the biggest one in the States. This is not what I would call an innovation, personally. It's not something I would be interested in funding if I was funding something. But the crowd disagree with me. Because even though all it is a cut-down cover for a little memory card to go in my Mac, and it makes it just that little bit more nifty, as the name suggests, they were funded 3,000%. Okay, you know, again, the risk is reduced by the fact that it's reduced by the fact that there's quite a market for that product. Okay. What's the problem? Part of the problem we've got at the moment is apathy, business as usual, and you talk to some institutions. The FSA is an interesting one, I'm sure we'll get to with the panel. And there's a reluctance to change, stunningly, in the circumstances we're in sometimes. But time has proved that even governments, let alone multinationals, can't turn back the tide of the kind of things that we're talking about. One of the questions, which we might get to later on, is, you know, this is going to happen. It's going to come to the UK from the States. More companies from here will be funded on Kickstarter. You know, they will arrive here. We need a vibrant, in my view, crowdfunding scene based here in the UK. We've got some people from some eminent people, I should say, from crowdfunding channels and platforms here in the UK. I'm sure they'll have a view on that as well. Finally, what's the potential for this? This is my view. Is the potential a new kind of capitalism? Is it a new kind of democracy? Is it a new, more democratic kind of capitalism, where it's not the people who hold the money on behalf of other people, it's not the gatekeepers who make those decisions, it's the crowd, it's the market. I think there's huge potential here.